Morning, just a quick boring video on, just some of the craziness that goes on in my life. And I got oh my God. Anyway, so the hand, I'm gonna see, it hurts. I mean, it really hurts. It cut clear around. I'm quite fortunate that it didn't just break the bone and lob it off. But so what? It's life. You're just gonna have to live and move on. They don't prescribe antibiotics anymore. Just not something they do. It used to be, oh, you cut yourself, go get some antibiotics, and it'll keep it from getting infected. Basically, what they said was, oh yeah, we've overused antibiotics and we've caused problems in younger generations of people, and we need to stop doing that now. So not really a big deal. Just keep an eye on it. Even told me not to use Neosporin. So I was like, well, can I use betadine? They're like, yeah, if you got betadine or iodine, use that. So I did put some Neosporin on it yesterday just because I wanted to keep it soft, a little bit soft, and it worked out pretty good. Last night I put betadine. We cleaned it up with peroxide. There are 8 stitches in there. Cleaned it up with peroxide and then put some betadine on it, and I suffered all night long. It was painful. But whatever. That's really not what this video is about. I'm just going to go through some of these lovely comments because, there's always a smart ass. And I think that it's a good thing to touch base on comments once in a while. And I haven't done a video like this in quite some time. But here we go because, all right. So, and there's some comments that I agree with, and that's really one of the things that I want to, address here. So, anyway, all right. So, we're going to do newest first, which is fine, 1 hour ago. Bale the rye and get something. No, I'm not going to bale the rye. I don't need to bale the rye. See, the problem with taking the rye off or baling that rye is that you remove the biomass and all the fertilizer that you put into it, that you've scavenged with the rye. You take it away, then that actually starves the corn crop. We are going to get rain. Eventually, we are going to get rain, and that seed is in the ground. I do have. I got out into that field, and the majority of that field is much better than what I showed yesterday. That spot was like really bad, and I didn't really walk out across the field to give a fair assessment of that field. So. And it looks good. I mean, honestly, it looks good. I terminated it yesterday. Yes, I know I should have terminated it much sooner. I should have, but I'm one guy. I plant and I spray. Tim doesn't spray. He puts fertilizer down, but I won't have him with chemical sprayer, just fertilizer. Teresa doesn't plant or spray. She's support crew when it comes to that. Seed, lunch. VTing. She does all that. She did every bit of the VTing this year. So, anyway. Let's see. I suppose watering a can is out of the question, of course. Kill the cover crop. It is robbing moisture from the corn. I know this. You see, and that's the crazy thing. There's a lot of guys out here, and that's probably the one thing that I know more than anything, that rye, wheat, or any cover crop, if it's still living and growing, it is robbing moisture from the corn. So when you do cover crops, and I've done this now, this is the second year of intense cover cropping. Before it was, so you plant it to a field of hay or whatever. I know that the cover crop zaps most of the moisture out of the ground. So let me go back about a month and a half ago. We were getting rain every other day, every 3 days. At 2/10, an inch, and it was getting wet, and I was like, man, I can't even get out there and put the fertilizer down that I want to do. And I did, I got it on, and everything's good that way. But we had rain coming, and the projections for the coming month, May, June, July, August, are rain, heat and rain. So when I had that opportunity, that window to get that corn in the ground as quickly as I could, I took the opportunity. The problem was that once I started planting corn, it just never rained again. We haven't had rain. We had 2/10 of an inch 14 days ago. 2/10 of an inch 14 days ago. That doesn't matter. Doesn't mean anything really. So I got 1,100 plus acres of corn in the ground, and it hasn't rained. Now, if the long-range projections and the projections that we saw, the short-term projections, the 10-day forecasts, they were for rain here and there. You know, oh, you're going to get rain. Well, let's get this corn in. We'll worry about spraying because there's going to be plenty of moisture falling from the sky. I'll get the corn in. It'll be sprouted. I'll be able to spray it, and we won't have a moisture problem because 2 days after I terminate the crop, it stops pulling moisture out of the ground anyway. So I did that. And of course, we did have projections for rain, which never came. And yesterday we were supposed to have a 30-40% chance of rain. Did actually get a shower a mile and a half to the east of us, and it hit one of the fields, 1/10 of an inch, which is better than nothing, right? It's good. It helps. That cover crop is terminated, and it's all right. So yeah, it's really just been a struggle for moisture. The majority of my corn is out of the ground, and the last that I planted, and I didn't even videotape that, but the last that I planted into oats, and I had problems with the planter, and I've got a dilemma because 5 or 6 of those rows, I don't know where they broke. So I've got 5 or 6 out of 24 rows that are going to be null and void. Like, I'm going to have to replant it. So what do you do? You know, do you just take the VT over there, angle it to 6 degrees, and, angle it to 6 degrees, lay those oats out flat, and plant it? Well, I can't do that because it's so dry there that the seed hasn't sprouted. If it sprouted and I did that, it would pretty much terminate that corn. 90% of it, 80% of it would be terminated, never amount to anything, and it would just, once you tear the roots of these seedlings, they're done, they're spent. So that's what I'm going to have to do, and I've got until about the 20th of this month to get that planted. So I'm not really worried about that. I will probably today get the rest of the corn planter back together, and I do have to replant 50 or so acres. That is in moisture-rich ground. So I'm okay there. I'll just pull into the field. I'll set my lines up and adjust and go ahead and replant what I planted that did not come up. All right. So what happened there was trying to get the corn in. We still have those projections of rain. I was just a little bit on the too wet side. The closing wheels closed the slots and crumbled the sidewall. But because it was wet when I did it, like, I should have waited a day. One day made a huge difference from what I planted that first day to the second day. Yeah, figure that one, right? So I planted at night, the evening, and then I didn't get started until the next day planting these other properties, or the other properties that I planted. The next day, what I planted is gorgeous. It's beautiful, perfect. Perfect. Couldn't ask for a better stand of corn, and I planted 150 acres that day. Or more. I might have did between 2 days. In 2 days, I planted like 150 acres or 200 and some acres. So it was good. But I do have to replant these. Now, what's up is up. What isn't up isn't going to come up. Just hiccups with the planter. And, I'm learning this planter, to be honest with you. And it's just not a good thing. So I can plant today. There's enough moisture down there to bring that seed on. Everything's terminated. Moisture will come up from below as long as there's a good cover. And there is a good cover on that. So I'll be okay there. Yeah, here's another comment. Why not turn your chemical sprayer into a water sprinkler? You need 27,000 gallons per acre to create 1 inch of rain. That's 27 loads per acre on 1,100 acres. So just say 27,000 loads for 1,000 acres of water to get an inch. Not going to happen. You should talk to cotton farmers in West Texas. They have some dry planted into dust in the last couple of years, only have seed come out of the ground. It sucks, but power through it. Yeah, we will. I mean, we'll get through it. Can you imagine if you did full tillage this year? I feel your frustration. Rain 20 miles in each direction, none of it here. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. The guys that did the full tillage, the chisel plowing and the disking and the roller harrow and all that stuff, their corn is up. You know, they got it in right away. That my cover crop dried out the ground. That's just exactly what happened. There's no disputing that. That's what really happened. So right now, the guys that did full tillage or terminated their cover crop before they planted, I terminated after, they are doing well. I have 350 plus acres, 360 acres of wheat or more. Then 200, 300. Yeah, I got 350 plus acres of wheat to combine, right? I don't have the moisture to fill the head. That's how dry it is out there. It's crazy. Yeah, it's pretty sad right now, actually. Yeah, but anyway, it is going to rain again. We're looking at the 11th. It is now. It's the 3rd, so in a week or so, we're going to get some rain showers. And really, honestly, all it's going to take is a half an inch of rain to bring up the seed that's in the ground, get that sprouted and growing. Once it starts to grow, I mean, once the cover crop's dead and you get that moisture from the top, and moisture will come up from deep, from below, it will come up, and the roots will go down to it, I think we'll be okay. Now, we can do that for, a half an inch, and then the next week we get an inch. Then, we're going to have a very active tropical season. That's what we're told. And it is earlier than normal. So all we got to do is have a little bit of rain to get us into that tropical weather, and we'll be fine. We'll be fine. That cover cropper pulls moisture out. I got bills to pay and still farm conventionally too. Each their own. I'm tired of these regenerative guys think they're saving the planet. Grandpa, Dad didn't pay for farms by messing around with that shit. Well, Dan Kuhl, that's okay. Grandpa did mess around doing this shit. Unless you're like 20 years old, then and it's fine. But I will like to say this to you. And personally, this is directed directly at you. Our government and the governments around the world are on a green kick right now. Regenerative agriculture is not something that you are successful with the first, second, third year out. It takes 4 or 5 years before you build enough organic matter in the soil to put to shame everybody that's around you. And that's proven. It's proven. You have a very closed mind if you think that there's only one way to farm. And thinking about that, the one way to farm, there's many different ways of farming. And I'm not saying any one of them is wrong. I'm just saying that ask yourself this question. What do you know that human beings have touched that they haven't fucked it up? Right? Just think about that. Think about it. We have the safest transportation systems in the world. Airplanes still crash. Cars still crash. People still drink and drive. Roadways divert water. There's impermeable roadways that go to ditches. We put salt on roads to melt snow, killing the flora and fauna in those road ditches. I mean, there's just so many different things. And if you think that plowing the earth is the way nature intended to grow crops, or, well, nature wasn't really intended to grow crops, you see. We are hunter-gatherers, foragers. That's what we are. We have made agriculture. Human beings have made agriculture. And there's many ways to do this. Now, I'm not saying just go organic, because I just don't think that organic is the answer. I think there's a happy medium between conventional tillage and no-till and cover cropping and different types of fertilizers and different things like that over just one way or the other. And that's where I lay. I lay somewheres in between. I wouldn't mind tilling the soil a little bit. That's why I bought a VT. I don't mind using chemicals to terminate the weeds that cause me problems, because weeds rob your yield. And if you can control them, use the things that you can use to control those weeds so that you can actually, as long as it's profitable for you. But yeah, your grandpa and your dad didn't buy farms. Probably didn't. I don't know. Let's see how you make out. Because the profit margins using pure chemical farming, iron and chemicals, is getting thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner every day. So what your grandfather could buy a farm with farming versus what your dad could buy a farm with by farming this way, and how you're going to be able to purchase a farm farming this way is very different. My grandparents bought this place and the home farm from my great-grandparents. So my great-grandparents bought 160 acres for $19,000 in 1925. $19,000. They bit the bullet. They had some money saved, and they did that. Now, I don't know what they paid for this place in 1925. My grandparents bought it from my great-grandparents in 1958 or 59. From them, they paid $19,000. So in 1925, I want to say $6,000 is what they paid for it. I'm not 100% sure. I could ask my dad. He may know those numbers. But now, this same farm is well over millions, actually. 160 acres. I don't have a calculator on hand. 12 times 100 is 1.2. You look at a couple $1 million. A couple of $1 million. So fertilizer back then was what came out of the south end of a northbound cow, chickens, pigs, things like that. Now your fertilizer doesn't come out of anything but a pit in the ground or the air that we breathe, nitrogen. Mine too. I buy phosphate. I buy potassium. I didn't buy any phosphate this year. Don't need it. It's there. What I need to do is grow the plants that break it down. And yes, of course, I have a moisture issue. But that moisture issue, it'll solve itself. I don't see any of the plants or the corn that has come up is still, any of the corn that has come up is still not, it's not showing signs of drought stress yet. The corn that didn't come up, that's just sitting down there. So I'm going to have fields that are like corn, and then not corn, then corn, and until it rains. When it rains, it's going to come up. And then I'm going to have a real mess drying. So it's just going to be a challenging year. My wife is like, quit worrying about this. I'm like, man, this is the driest I've ever remember, ever in May. Normally May is April showers bring May flowers, and then June is haymaking month, where you fight for, late May, June, haymaking month. And then July, you go to a picnic and you watch the corn grow and you watch the soybeans grow and you milk the cows and you feed the chickens and the hogs and then you get back into August and September and it's haymaking months again, for second cut. Or if you're growing alfalfa like we used to do, it's a lot of every month you're making alfalfa. And quite possibly is what I'm going to do on a couple of these farms is actually go into growing alfalfa, because you can get somewhere around $250, $300 a ton right now. But anyways, let me read a couple more of these. All rye cover croppers show this beautiful tall rye. The seed germinates almost 100%, and no one shows this rye is a gambling cover crop. A lot of people going to winter peas, etc. I agree. Rye is a tough one, but you got to understand, the ground that I farm doesn't drain well. That was why my choice of cover crop was wheat and rye and oats. Oats will dry the ground out terrible too. Yes, and it does dry it out. And that was the whole point. Get it dried out, get the seed in the ground, terminate that rye, and then the timely rainfalls that we would normally get this time of year would just replenish the soil moisture, and there would be a cover crop on top of it, which would keep it from evaporating off the fields. And you know the program, but we just haven't had rain in a month, over a month now. And there's a lot of anti-cover croppers out here. You know, go look at Jeff Ramon's crops. He'll show you. They're drying out. Still growing, but drying out. I just drove from here to Illinois and back, right? It's dry clear across the country. And there's guys right up here that did conventional tillage just like 5 miles to my northwest in Pennsylvania. I came in from Allentown yesterday. I had to go to Dear John to get some parts. And sure enough, you see corn that's this tall. And then you got corn that's here, and the lower leaves are drying out on the knolls because of the dry weather. So it doesn't matter whether it's cover cropped or not. Everybody's having the same issue here. So don't get upset with me. I'm not upset with you. Say what you want. Farm how you want. I'm thinking that in the next 3 to 5 years, that my issues are going to level out, whereas the issues from conventional tillage will still be this roller coaster ride, which is true. Anybody that I know that's cover cropped and done what I'm doing for more than 5 years are like, you hit this point where you're at the point in the beginning where it's like, what the fuck am I doing? And then you get to this hump, like this hurdle at 5, 6 years, where you have a year whether it's either too wet or too dry, and those crops are what are thriving when others are waning. So right now I'm suffering, and I'm okay with suffering. I'm a big boy. I can handle it. It is frustrating, but I'm a big boy. I can handle it. So, but anyways, I just figured I'd make this video, and I love you all anyway. It doesn't matter. I mean, there's a few guys that love to rouse me, and it's okay. I've been on ScrewTube for 15 years, and a lot of you guys there's a lot of guys that actually are still watching me 15 years later, 10 years later. I had a guy last night on Instagram say, "Hey, I've been watching your channel since 2010. It's 13 years ago. 13 years. I'm like one of the longest running channels, continually uploading running channels on this platform. And, of course, I'm even if my viewership goes down and my subscribers don't, I don't gain subscribers like I normally have in the past, it's okay. This isn't my life. There's a lot of farmer YouTubers out there that have grown accustomed to this finger hurts, have grown accustomed to the YouTube revenue, the sponsored stuff, and their merchandise that they sell. I did all that stuff. It's not for me. I'm not a salesman when it comes to that stuff. I want to be an honest person, and I want to take a piece of equipment that they give me and be honest about it and shove it down your throat if it's good. And not shove it down your throat, but I'd stick it to the company if it's no good. And if it is good, I promote it, like TireJect. TireJect is really good. Penergetic BWV, that is the deer repellent. You can contact Ronnie Pippin and tell him that you saw that on One Lonely Farmer and you want to try that deer repellent. Penergetic BWV, Ronnie Pippin. That's the guy. Call him and he'll get it to you. Whether it comes from me or through me, it's fine. It's great. It works. So anyways, with that, have a nice day. I will be doing videos on that stuff as well, so here we go.